It's evening, dear. It's not afternoon.
Well, good evening, good night, hello, hello. I pray that everyone has had an awesome start of this week. We do apologize for not being on last night for our 8 o'clock moment for the seat at the table. But we want to take the time to thank each and every last one of you that took time out of your busy schedule to wish our AJ a happy sweet 16. We enjoyed ourselves. We wind up taking her out for lunch. Because anybody know whenever you do anything in the afternoon, especially down here in Florida, since this is a tourist area, every restaurant you tend to go to seems to be busy for dinner.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And we had an awesome time yesterday. We were at a place that it was very awesome. Uh, it was very up to beat. It was very lively. The people, the restaurant, the food, the service, everything that we encountered was pinpoint on time. What was the name of the restaurant again?
Uh,
It was crushing.
Crazy.
Oh, it was crazy. Sushi hibachi.
If you know AJ, and if you've never been around our AJ,
AJ loves. She thinks she's Oriental. She thinks she's Asian, and I think I messed up when I showed her how to use chopsticks. She thinks she can. Daddy, let me teach you how to use chopsticks. I'm like, baby, Daddy taught you how to use chopsticks, and because of the fact that there are times where my hands are shaking because of the seizures that I've had in the past, and I still have triggers from the seizures I have. Sometimes I really can't use the chopsticks like I want. Daddy, you can't use chopsticks to eat rice. How you think they eat their rice in China, Japan, in Thailand? They use chopsticks. I'm sorry. Those that still do it the old-fashioned way. And we had a good time. We had a waitress named Joy, and my daughter remembered her name. I said, I didn't catch her name. She was speaking so fast, I couldn't catch it. And my wife said, she just so ghetto. Now, she was down to earth. She was full of life. She just was so lovely. We had a time. At first, I said, this must be a black sushi restaurant because they played all black music. I didn't hear music from no other artist but none of black music in it. But it was, when I tell you it was awesome, it was clean. It was off the chain. So she had a good time. It was for $22, $23, all you can eat, you get stuffed. And it's not just the sushi. It's everything that you want about your grill. And it's lovely. You get no pork. So for those of you that don't eat pork, there's no pork on the hibachi. There's some pork that's in these little, we're going to get started. But I promised them that I'd give a shout out again. And I know there's a lot of you that like to watch. So you might want to go check it out. It's West of the Chapel here in Florida for those of you that live in Florida. But anyway, on the flip side of things, there's some of you still living insane. And there's some of you still living in insanity. And there's still some of you crying out because of the fact that there is an insanity. Please, some of y'all going to court every day. In your homes, in your relationships, on your jobs, in your neighborhood, in your own mind. You're pleading with yourself. You're bargaining with yourself. You're trying to figure out how you're going to get out of the thing that you're in because you have no earthly clue of why you still where you are. So tonight, I'm going to let Evangelist take the helm since she said, we got to come on. We got to get started. So listen, welcome to all of you, Evangelist Rima, Sister Lynn, Sister Pam. God bless all of you tonight. So if you're in a situation where you at a place where you feel like you just insane, you're living insane, you've been in this insane situation, you feel like you're living an insane asylum, you're always arguing, fussing, bickering, you just don't see how you're going to get out of it. There is a way out, whether it's natural, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional, psychological, whether it's conscious. You just feel you just got to go to bed all the time. You got to go take a ride. You got to take a sip. You got to take a smoke. You smoking and nobody know you're smoking. You got your little perfume in your purse. You got your little bottle of cologne. You got your little mouthwash. You got to keep you some mints or something. What those little things in the can? Remember the little mints in the can I used to have?
Little chalky thing.
Yeah, you have those with you so nobody know. You got your bottle in the back of the toilet and nobody know that. In the tank of the toilet, you got use something in the toilet and you run into the bathroom. Every time you look up, you got to use the bathroom. And you really don't have to use the bathroom. Oh, that was just on Good Times. They just showed you what they did when Keith would go run in the bathroom. But that's actual fact because there are people that actually do that, and they're still doing it now. You got to get your roll up. You got your little white roll up paper. You got your Zippo paper. So these are things that people are doing because they refuse to come out of the places that they are. They're happy because this is a norm for them. This is normal. They like the back and forth. They like the arguing. They like being with somebody that's not theirs because they don't know what else to do. They're satisfied. They have settled. They're comfortable with it. So I'm going to stop right there because you look at me like, said you was gonna let me start and you still running your mouth. So I'll stop right there because I'm just giving you some platforms that you can look at. You go into a church and you don't feel like you're getting nothing. You're giving your tithe, you're giving your offering, you're praying and all of these other things. You done went to your pastor, you done went to the deacon, you're sitting on the usher board, you're singing in the choir, you're playing the instrument, you're just sitting in the pew and you still don't see where it's going. You ain't getting nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. You're talking to your son, you're talking to your daughter, and it just seems like they're in the same situation over and over again. You told them that's where you've been, that's what you done did, that's how you did it. You got a husband, you got a wife, you got a boyfriend, you got a girlfriend. So are you living insane or are you living in insanity? Do you understand? You're looking for a different result by doing the same thing and it's repeating all over again. Your mama told you that's what she did and you're following because you have now learned the same behavior that they were taught, and that behavior is repeating itself and it has created a whirlwind of spirit. You sow to the wind, the Bible say, and now you're reaping the whirlwind. You're wondering why you got all of these storms going on. Go ahead, Evangelist.
Amen. Amen. See, that's why I don't like coming behind him talking because he be knowing so far. You be like trying to play catch up. But anyway, we thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, we do apologize because we were supposed to be on last night at 8, but I was a little tired and I came in and took a nap. And when I woke up, it was about 9 o'clock. So I went past the nap. But I wanted to share with you because of the fact we are at the time of the year where a lot of things tend to happen, and we all know and we're aware, especially if you have family members that have some form of a mental health problem, or sometimes our emotions change and we're not even diagnosed with anything because of the fact there's a lot of emotions that go on around this time of the year. You got some people overwhelmed because they're preparing to get ready to cook this huge Thanksgiving meal, or they're preparing for family and friends and guests to come in for the holiday season. Because of the fact we know that as we get ready to go from Thanksgiving, everybody's going to be preparing to go right into Christmas. My son and I had stopped at the grocery store this morning to pick up a couple of items that I needed to do our daughter's birthday cake. And as soon as we walked in the store, both of us looked at each other and said, we haven't even got to Thanksgiving and they're already playing Christmas music. He said, you can't even enjoy the holidays now because they're taking you from one place immediately into the next thing. That's what we're doing now in our lives. We have allowed commercialism to take over our life. It's what happened. Or the fact that my little one, she's taking I think it's U.S. history. And she was sharing with me. She said, Mama, she said, I don't want to do Thanksgiving this year. I said, okay, explain to me why. She said, did you understand that Thanksgiving is not what we were taught? And I said, no, explain to me, tell me more. Because I'm the type of person, I believe that we can learn something from everybody. And if we feel that we have all the answers, we need to check and examine ourselves. Exactly. So whenever she got to telling me what she had learned and she went to do further research, I said, you know what? I'm with you. We no longer have to celebrate in that manner. Right. I said, what has happened is someone has commercialized and have changed something that has impacted a group of people that has impacted us our whole life. So yes, I am fully in agreement with you. We will no longer go to the grocery store and do things the way people used to do. That's not us. If you choose to go out there and do it, please have fun, enjoy yourself, cook your big meal, enjoy your friends and family. Please do it. But my biggest thing is that whenever you do it, don't sit down and complain, because every year you keep putting yourself in position doing the same thing is where I'm going. Because year after year, we're preparing these big meals, and every year we all complain about all the cooking, how tired I'm gonna be. Gotta cook this, I gotta cook that, I gotta make sure this done, I gotta make sure that done. But you're complaining about something that you're saying that you enjoy doing. In fact, that's not enjoyment. Enjoyment means that there's not going to be a complaint about it. There's not going to be a gripe and ground about it. You're not going to be stressing yourself about it. We know that there's inflation going on at this time. People can barely afford their own meals to sit on their table just to feed their children a well-balanced meal. That is a meat, a vegetable, a starch, and a bread. They're having a hard time preparing these things for their family on a daily basis. So whenever the holidays come in and they start looking at how other people celebrate and that they want to take part, it can create insanity. Why? Because now you're stressing yourself. You're going out making loans that you don't even have to make.
We do this every year because we find reasons to find a loan. Here in Florida, there's a big thing that they have called a big loan company where you want to have your credit check called AMSCOT.
Pay loan.
Well, it's a payday loan. They do it off your Social Security check. They do it off of military checks. They do it off your check at your job, what have you. It's low interest, low impact, what have you. You got your other video going. I might want to start it over again. But at the end of the day, the whole perception is that I can borrow as much as I need or as little as I want. I pay it back. There's no interest to it. And as long as I pay it back and I pay it back in time, I'm good. And then there's so many loan companies that are doing it. The insanity about all of it is that they're talking about how much debt that we have in our country, but they're not teaching people how to really come out of debt. We have so many ministries that are putting people in positions where they want you to continue to sow seeds, and people are getting irritated, aggravated, agitated. They're getting to the place where they're either leaving or they're just watching online or just at a place where they're not going to anybody's place of worship. They believe in God at their house because it's looking as though the man or the woman of God are the only ones that are getting somewhere or benefiting from it. They're doing things that you're telling me God is going to do this, God is going to do that, Christ is this, Christ is that, and you're not showing me really how to get ahead, but you're driving, you're looking good, your family's doing good, you're prospering, but I'm not prospering, but you're not showing me how to now economically, socially, financially be able to be in a position where I'm coming out because I'm giving all these things to the church. And then you say the church needs this, the church needs that, but yet the church is always building in the things that they say they're building on. You're not bringing in nobody to be able to socially, economically, and financially be able to show us how to prosper, telling us that the Bible says that you ought to prosper and be in good health, even as your soul is in good health. But none of us are doing any prospering, but you are. You have fine clothes, fine cars, a fine house. Your children are doing this, your children are doing that. The insanity about it is even in our country, we are taking aid and sending it elsewhere. But in the communities where it really need to be, we're socially degrading our people more than what they really are. And instead of empowering them like we should empower them, we're bringing things to say we are bringing in social and economical impacts, but they're really now pushing our people back to where they're further than what they are. Instead of removing ghettos, instead of removing projects, instead of removing things that have now kept us in social decline, economic decline, instead of getting us out of poverty areas where we are now pushing them in decline more than what it is. So what's really insane? We're taking and we'll kill ourselves on a job. We'll have 4 or 5 jobs, so you don't have time to really raise your children. Now you're trying to find out why your son and your daughter have gotten into the things that they gotten into. We're really not paying attention to what's going on in school, and now school don't want the parent to be involved in what's going on with the children until the child has got in trouble. We find ourselves in positions and in places to where the impact is bad. And now when the school system or the school board now is wanting the parents to get back involved in what's really going on, the school itself and teachers don't want the child involved. Well, that was a point where parents could go into the classroom. Parents could get actively involved in the child's life. So that's insanity when you don't want the parent to raise the child until the child gets in trouble. Now you want the child to have the parent involved and have the parent involved in the child's life, but you still will not allow them to do what's necessary because they're not there. You don't want the father-in-law. You have so many of our young women, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, that will get involved with young men or get involved with young women. And it's all about having this social impact to say, I got a life. We've been out to the club. We've enjoyed ourselves. We're doing this. We're doing that. But nobody really has, you're right, cuz a relationship with God. There's no restoration, because when you look at what you just said, I like that, because the insane part about it, if we're really restoring folk, Paul said to the Galatian folk in Galatians chapter 6, verse 1, he said, if a brother is overtaken in the fault, ye which are spiritual are supposed to restore such a one. So if we see somebody fall, are we really picking them up? Now, we do know that some folk that see folk fall. We do see some folk trying to pick folk up, but when we see them picking them up, most of the time, in certain situations, in certain scenarios, the insane thing about that is that you take the information that you have gathered, the information that you have attained, the information that you have ascertained, and you use that against the person, to use that person now to get what you want from them and hold that against them so that you can now control them, or you destroy them with it if they don't do what you want them to do. If you can't get them to now be your puppet, and now you have them as a marionette without any strings. So the insane thing is that our country, our governors, our senators, we have all of these civic leaders that are our council persons that have jurisdictions over us in our cities, are supposed to be the ones that are now making sure our small communities, where we're from, Tina, you know, where we're from down on the bayou, they're supposed to be making sure that our communities are going up, their jurisdictions over those certain parts of the communities in Gibson, Bayou Black, Dularge, you know, Donna, and all of these other places. And yet the impact of where it is does not look like it is on one end of the bayou. Big Bayou Black, Small Bayou Black, Danville, and all these other places. Other places have now been restored. They have all of the things that they need. The community centers look good, or they'll come in and they'll bring in something to make one part look good to say they've done something, but the other parts of the bayou don't look like nothing at all. They're going to the other parts of the community, and now they have made social impacts. And it says the people that's there don't want it done. No, what you've done is you've gotten with people that you feel are more deserving than other people in other areas, and you have not changed what need to be changed. You've left them where they are, but now you have made promises. So the insane thing and the insanity about it is that we just sat back and let these same folk that we voted for, because of what they look like, because of what their race is, because of what the promises they made, they're still doing the same thing, and we do the same things as our family. We sit back and we moan, we groan, we complain, we get upset, we get aggravated, we get agitated, we're upset, we're bothered, we're troubled, we're not doing anything about it, or we'll move out of our own areas, and we will not go back and now see in our areas. We will not go back and bring in the social change, the economical change. We will not go back in and bring mental change, psychological change. We will not go back and bring intellectual change. So that's become the insane thing about it. So what do we do about it? Yeah, and you're right, that he would send anointed people into those areas that would begin to filter out the seats of those folk that are now set there, because we won't remove them. And the folk that we did have there, we thought that they weren't doing the job, when in actuality they were doing the job that we needed them to do. They just weren't surrounded by folk that would be able to help push the issues that needed to be done. You quiet on me, baby.
I'm listening.
You don't get it? Because even in our area where we are, the insane thing about it, we live here in Florida. We live here in Pasco County. And some of the same things are happening even with our schools. They've gotten to the place now that they want to put books out of school. They want to now be in positions where they tell you what books can be read and what books cannot be read. They want to tell you how you cannot do certain things when it comes down to teaching certain lessons in school. So now you've been in a position where we want to take the word of God away from you completely. We want to tell you, here's the material and here's the kind of history that you can learn to what kind of history you cannot learn. So now when you learn, let's go back to what you just said concerning what our daughter just found out about what Thanksgiving is all about. Let's hide what history really is concerning why we celebrate what we celebrate, right? So now I'm going to tell you that the real reason that we celebrate Thanksgiving is to be thankful for the harvest that's there, when in actuality, the reason why we celebrate Thanksgiving is to actually cover up the mere fact that I'm getting ready to destroy you, slaughter you, so I can take from you what is yours to make it mine, when in actuality, I ain't celebrating nothing. I'm about to celebrate the massacre that I'm about to do on you. And we do that same thing every day. We bring people in and make them our friends. We consider them to be the people that we want them to be in our circle. We get close enough to them so that we can get in their circle, to get to that inner circle, to get to that innermost circle, so that we can find all of the good information that we need to find the best way that we can find to destroy them completely, to now overtake where they are. And the insane thing is that we think that most of these people that we consider to be our friends, our associates, who consider to be the people that care for us, that got our back, really don't care anything about us. They really are not concerned whether or not we live or die. What they're really concerned about is how much I can get on you to destroy you. So the insane thing is we go around and say we're connected to Bob, Lily, Mike, Jane, Sue. They know Judge so-and-so. They know federal judge so-and-so. They know officer such and such. They know sheriff such and what. They know congressman so-and-so. And if I get in trouble, my child can get out of this. We look at many shows every day that's what they feel, that if you have yourself well connected, then you won't have to worry about any trouble. That's insane. That's living in the world of insanity. That's feeling like I'm the only child, so I ain't got to worry about nothing. You just a stepchild. My mama just adopted you for a moment because you went through. You just live with us. You're not my daddy. You're not my mama. You can't tell me what to do. I'm your boss, so whatever you say, they're not going to believe you. Whose word they're going to take? Your word or my word? Blessing, Pastor, how are you? That's what we live in. That's the world we live in. This is my land. You no longer live here. Go ahead.
You may go on.
What, I lost you? How did I lose you?
Way back a long time ago.
With insanity, there's so many things we live in with. You lived in a house with your mother. You being an only child. Your mama brought in kids that were foster care. How many times did you feel that you had now the upper hand?
Most of the time. So
you didn't feel that it was insane, and you didn't live in the world of insanity. And those kids didn't feel like that they were just dealing with the mere fact that you felt like you was entitled. So insane and insanity pretty much has the same thing as a person that feels entitled to do whatever they want to do or get whatever they want or feel as though it's their world and not yours. Right? Yeah. And because of the fact that we live in a world with so many people that feel entitled. Mm-hmm. We just looked at a clip where you had a man cave discussion with several pastors that felt, even though they were called, and I can't bring my entourage, and even if this small church called me and want me to come and preach, if you can't afford me and I don't feel that the Lord is moving me and I don't feel the unction of the Holy Spirit, irregardless of what the Spirit of the Lord told that pastor or moved that pastor to do, I'm not coming to your church, because if you can't afford me, I ain't coming. That's insane, right? That's insane. That's living in insanity, right? So where did I lose yet? Because I was saying the same thing using different words. That's still insane. Because there's no difference in what I said, but the words that I said.
It was the example.
It was the example that I used? That's why I lost that?
Yeah, that's where you lost that. I can be honest. I don't know about y'all.
She said I lost that the example. Because when we look at the world that we live and the condition of our world that we in, and I love what my cousin Tina said she's praying and believing, and I'm praying and believing with it, because where I'm from, we could have more being done, but yet there's less that has been done, and there are more promises that have been made, but yet you only did it in one area. And for as large as the area is and small as it is at the same time, yet you only develop only certain parts of the area where we're from. You politic to get it because you believe the former councilman that was over the area was not good for it, and you believe that that person was not doing the right job and doing a good enough job to bring in the changes that needed to be made, and you came in doing things that you felt will benefit the area, but you didn't finish the job that you started. And then when folk began to see that you didn't keep your promise, you had issues with that. But the person that was in the position were fulfilling the job and developing the whole area, because they wasn't looking out for themselves. And they were going to bat and battle for the things that needed to be done, but you just wanted a position. We can't just have positions in life. And although it takes about a year to 2 years once you're in the position to now finally get to the place where you can implement the things that you said you wanted to do in the job that you have. Hey, Ryan, how you doing, man of God? It does take that long, but you still got to keep pushing for it. Once you have now been reallocated to the seat and you've done that seat again, now you can continue to fulfill what you said and go forward in what you're doing, and not just do things every now and then. That's no different than a leader in the church. That's no different than a husband and a wife. That's no different than a man telling the woman how much he loved her and the promises that he made, and never be good on the promises that he made, and she living insane and living a life of insanity while she continued to stay there because he keep telling her how much he loved her. And just as we just heard on one of the shows that we just looked at, Law and Order, he beat the devil out of her, and then he just bring her some flowers every now and then, and she said, well, he loved me. Then he jump her bones, and she feel that make her feel good. Hey, cuz, how you doing? And then 3 weeks later, he beat her again, and she walk out the house with a pair of sunshades on. She stay in for a few days because she got some bruises and she refused to go to a doctor. That's living in insanity. You insane for believing that he have now changed his mind because he ain't hit you in 3 months. And he's now acting as though he loved you. He's changed. He's not arguing. He's taken himself at a place and he's now going to get counseling. At least that's what he told you. That's what he's trying to show you, until the day comes that he feel angry enough, because now he's went back to those 3 months where he didn't touch you at all, but you say that. But you still living fearful, fretful. You're wondering when the day gonna come. You're making sure that you do nothing at all that will trigger anger, upset him, irritate him, aggravate him, agitate him, to cause him to do you anything that will cause him to strike out. So you're still insane because you're looking for a different result, but you're living in insanity because you're bargaining with yourself, knowing the door has now been open to leave, but you choose not to leave because the cage has been open and you've been set free. You ask God for freedom, but you live in insanity. And the insanity part is you go to bed with this person every night, not knowing if you're going to wake up the next morning.
That's insane.
And you're right, Brian, they do things for their own selfish gain. Go ahead.
So whenever we sit down and we think about these things and we really look at the whole situation, many of us will catch and find out that we are living in insane or living in insanity. One of the biggest things that I look at and I have to keep in mind, especially whenever Apostle talked to me and my kids, because as of right now, everybody knows that it's just my kids that are around of us most of the time. So one of the biggest things that I looked at and I watched today as we was sitting down and my son came in and he was sharing with us one of his creditors that he was paying off because he's completely paid off one and now he's working on paying off the other one, and he was talking about his credit score. And I'm thinking to myself, we're 25 years old. I wasn't even thinking about a credit score. But at 25 years old, we have to have these kids prepared so that they no longer live in the same situations that we live. And they're not in their 30s and 40s having to clean up where they messed up at 19 and 20. They have sense enough to be able to stay stable, because most of us do not know how to be stable.
Exactly.
We live in chaos, which means insanity. We live insane because it is insane to me And it took me a while to get here. And I'm going to share it because of the fact a lot of us do it, especially as mothers, single parents. Some of us have been parents young. We didn't really have a full understanding of what we were actually doing.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that I keep in mind and I look at is the fact that we work ourselves to death to make sure that we give to our kids to have one. Most of the time I looked at, especially with my oldest, he wasn't the type that asked for anything. I just bought a lot of things, and I bought what I thought that he wanted, or I thought that I wanted him to have. But I didn't look at the fact that I wasn't laying up anything for his inheritance. I was trying to give it all to him now. So whenever I look at it, I drove trucks for a year and a half, and after I came home and I looked at it, he had more junk that we wound up giving away to other kids because half the stuff that we bought, he was a child with a car lot of battery-operated toys that he really didn't play with. There was things that I really just wasted money on clothes and shoes, and sometimes if he didn't like the color of shoes, he wasn't going to wear the color of shoes. And so whenever I think about that, and now that I'm older, and now that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to teach them so that they no longer make the same mistakes that we have made. Because a lot of us have worked ourselves. I injured my back trying to keep a patient from falling. And I did that in my 30s. But now that I'm getting closer to 50, I'm having more problems in my back. But I injured my back trying to keep somebody from hurting. But I also had to think about it. Wait a minute, I injured myself on my job.
Right.
And even though my job had to pay for medical, even though they wound up paying me that little money to get me paid out, to get me out the way, so they can say they can wash their hands and they done with it, how wise was I with that? And I look at it because sometimes whenever I talk to people and I hear people talk and I listen to stuff that they say, one, I'm listening because one, I'm looking to find myself in that situation. Mm-hmm. And whenever I look at it and I find myself that, wait a minute, I have been in that situation. And because I have been in that situation, right, now I can share with you how you can start preparing and fixing that situation. Because one of the biggest things that I look at is that we will give. We will burn ourselves out trying to make sure that we have the best things that we can to offer. But one of the biggest things that we don't think about is that we don't think about tomorrow. And most of us come up, and I know I did, is that you work hard, you might as well do something to celebrate all the work that you did. It's okay to celebrate, but have you put up for hard times? Did you put up for when something may happen? Because when mayhap come, we ain't got to go to the Amscots. We don't have to go to Advanced America. We don't have to go to the loan company. We don't have to go to none of these places. Why? Because we have already put aside for mayhap. What's that commercial where the man always tearing up everybody's stuff? And he said his name was Mayhap. It's one of the, I think it's the insurance.
Oh, Mayhem.
Yes.
Talking about Allstate.
Yes, we don't never think about those things.
Right.
And it's funny because of the fact whenever I listen, and if anybody connected to our son, especially my son, if you listen to his conversation and you see what he write on social media, you would think this man is so immature. But whenever you sit down and you talk to him one-on-one, and you listen to him talk and how he put things that we shared with him together to make sure that when he walk up out this door, is that he's not going to rent from nobody. He don't want to go lease from nobody. He don't want to go move in with nobody. He listened and he said, you know what? I'm looking to buy my own. Because if I buy my own, I own my own. And I said, you know what? I wish I'd have had that information, because by the time I got 25, I'd have been in my own, but I was too busy living my best life. Society has built us and commercialized us to live our best life whenever we're really not living it. Go ahead.
Right. Well, that's actually some of us, because my great-grandmother, my father, and my grandmother, they taught us what was called, and my cousin Karen testified to this as well, and I'm pretty sure Sister Woods can testify to this also. My cousin Altina, we was taught to build what is called, or put aside nest egg. That's what they call savings, because they didn't trust banks back in the day. So what they did, they had nest egg. They had the little can, they had the sock, they had the hollow part of the bed, or they hid it in the old television or they hid it in the back of a paint or something like that. They actually did that where we're from. So they may have not taught y'all that because you told me that your aunt and them said you worked hard for it and all that other stuff. There's no harm in it. Well, we had that same principle, but a part of that principle that we were taught was that you had to learn how to save, put some money aside, learn to find some things to invest. I told you, my great grandfather was a millionaire and he didn't know how to read or write. All of the property they have, their 365 acres of land that they still have down on San Raf. Carolyn, she can tell you the same thing. Even with that side of the family with the Ruffins as well, that's a lot of stuff that they owned as well from her side of the family, which is a part of my mom's family. So they knew what to do. They knew how to procure it and things of that nature. Same thing with the Seymour side of the family. So that were things that we were taught early. We were taught about learning how to invest and how to gain things. So the knowledge that we gained a lot of knowledge. Some of our older family members that didn't have a lot of knowledge from going to school, but understood what the principles and what the value of having things and knowing what the value of land was, knowing what it was to have your own and own your own and how to make sure you maintain it. Now, if you lost it, that was because you just was foolish in what you were doing. And that's what I try to teach my kids as well. And those are the things my father had a third grade education. And my father taught me that. He taught me what it was to manage a checkbook, how to write a check, what it was to be able to know what debits and credit were, how to enter it into a checkbook. So we learned those things. And that's why I wanted to try to pass those same principles on to you so that, and I'm like, wait, you mean to tell me you don't know that, you don't understand that? And that's what a lot of our people and a lot of our churches. So when I started pastoring, that's the thing that I wanted, because I didn't hear that a lot in the church I came from at Mount Pilgrim. Did they know that? Yes. But was that taught in the church? No, it wasn't, because they felt that was something that you should learn on your own. You don't need to be teaching it. No, that's a part of what needs to be done, because all of those things build the wealth of your people. It builds the wealth of the ministry. It builds the life of the people that are there. And it causes the influx of the economical, the financial, the social, the emotional side of your church to continue to go. And you ain't got to worry about a whole lot, because when all of these things come in, as they did in Acts chapter number 6. So when all of these things coming in, if their financial institution in the beginning was in the church, that's what was taught in the church. So in the tabernacle, which was an example of what the church would be. So when it came back all around again in the first century church, you had the same thing going on. So if we don't do these things, you live in the same. That's why all of our credit was jacked up. That's why all of our credit was messed up. That's why we don't know what money markets are. That's why we don't know what being able to take and put out CDs or take CDs and what they are. We don't know what IRAs and Roth IRA. We don't understand all of these principles of knowing where to get green stocks and all of these things and put our monies in places where, or buy gold, buy silver, buy cotton, buy corn, and buy all of these things so that your money is steady rolling over, so that when the time comes, we don't know what liquid, assets are. We don't know what hard assets are. We don't understand these things because it's not being shown. We're not being taught. We don't want to be taught. We don't want anybody to tell us. We don't know what to say. We don't understand these things. You live insane every day. You're right. Take your money, and I'm going to do what I want with my money. We want to go buy some little green, smoke it up a little bit. We want to go run to the club. We don't want to own no club. We don't want to pay nobody no taxes. We don't understand what taxes are. There are stocks that you can buy that are tax-free, that buy taxes that are being paid by you, that you make money off of, where you ain't paying no taxes on, because we don't do the investment on it, because that's why we stay broke. We don't understand these things. We don't get these principles. We don't recognize it. So those are some of the things, as you heard Evangelist just say, that my son listens, that he hears, that we recognize, that we do, so that by the time he makes 30 years old, 25, in the next 5 years, have the money that he wants. You know how to put these things aside because you understand the principle, the foundation. You work the principles out. You have a lot of folk that may not have a godly lifestyle, that may not be living for Christ, but you have a lot of rich folk that work the principles of God. They work the principles of Christ. And that's why they have so much residual. Residual income is continual income coming in. They're not living off the money that they make every week, every 2 weeks, every month. They're living off the interest of money that they already made. So they check go in the bank. And they living off that interest, whether it's compound interest. Some of y'all don't know what compound interest is. Are you insane? Do you realize the fact that you don't have to live off of your $2,000 that you make every 2 weeks, and after taxes, you bringing home about $1,700 or $1,685 after taxes and some change. You can put that in. And if you put that in and you got a credit union, you got money in the credit union, you borrow it from your own money, the credit union pay you back 5 to 10% on a dollar that you done borrowed, and that money they put in a savings account for you that's still drawing another 1 to 2% interest on it, and you making money. So are you not insane? Are you not living insanity? My wife found that out a few years ago when we were together, and I kept telling her, you have a credit union account back in North Carolina. Your first several jobs you had when we were together, you should have been taking $25 to $50 out of your check every 2 weeks and sending it to North Carolina. Why should I do that? I ain't gonna be able to touch it. Exactly. Key word is you will not be able to touch it. If she'd have done that years ago, as you realize you have about $8,000 to $10,000 in the bank because of the interest you told me that they were paying you at that time. And she said, you know what, baby, I should have listened to what you said. So that's where we live insane. You can't go back, but you can't go forward. So she do have 2 credit unions now that she deal with. So when you put your money aside, you don't have to worry about the mayhem like she's just talking about. You don't have to worry about, when mad come or when the storm rises. You won't be hollering about when the storms. So when the storm of life is raging, you ain't got to worry about when, hurricane come, tornado come, if you got money for a hotel, if you got to hurry up and get out of town real quick because they say a natural disaster has come, flood waters have come, it has a drought, you got to find somewhere to go and stay because you got to get out of your house. Do y'all not understand? You ain't got to worry about maxing out your credit card, or if you got to pay credit cards off because you don't have to use your credit card because the banking system, everything is down. You got cash because you can pull cash out. You ain't got to worry about going borrow from this one or that one because you ain't got the extra money to put gas in your car. Do y'all not understand that? That's insanity. That's living insane. Does that make sense? Not just the relationship side. Mentally, you ain't got to worry about being frustrated. You ain't got to stay up all night. You ain't got to take and pop a bunch of pills. You ain't got to shoot up. You ain't got to snort up. You ain't got to go sleep around to try to make sure everything is taken care of and paid for. You ain't got to go drop your kids off at your mama's house and disappear, or drop your kids off, or leave them in the house. Now you're going all day, hope somebody will find your kids and take care of them or take your life because you don't know how you're going to make it. You hoping that the system won't, put them in a bad home. That's not how we should live. That's not what God designed and created you to be. You ain't got to hope that your business don't fail. If you create a business, one of the most important parts of a business model is thinking ahead, because you got to be able to operate for the first 6 months to a year when you start your business. So the first thing that you got to look at is that when you do a business model, let me give you some key principles. You got to make sure that you got enough money to operate for the first 6 months to a year, but you've already projected your budget out for 2 years. 2 to 5 year budget. That's what you want to allow for. Look at where you at. Go out and scope the area. Look what you need to see and who it is you marketing your business towards. Look at how you're going to be able to make sure that you maximize your money. Make sure you got more coming in than you got going out. Look at your DTI. That's called debt to income ratio. Most of you may not understand what that is. You don't want to overspend and underspend. You want to make sure that the product that you got coming in is the product you got going out. So when you make your orders, you don't want to over order or under order. You want to look at what your projected sales have been over the last 2 or 3 weeks, over the last 2 or 3 months, so that when you bring your stuff in, you ain't ordering too much so that you got overstock. You don't want to have all that overstock and you can't sell it now. You got to now price down the merchandise that you got because you got too much product in. That's living insane. That's knowing how to be able to bring in the merchandise that you got in, so that you are not taking the same merchandise that made you the money that you made, where you made in your first 3 months over $30,000. Now you got to go on sale because you can't sell all the merchandise that you got because you over ordered. So you got overstock. You got to learn how to do that. Does that not make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because you took the time to look at your projected sales, all the stuff you brought in, even if you run in a dollar store. If you went on and you run in a dollar store, you know all of the little small items you got coming in. You're looking at each item you got, whether you have the little small bottles of mouthwash, toothpaste, deodorant, all of these things. You know how much is going out of your store. You counted all of that stuff down, and you know how much you need to come in so you don't have overstock, so that you ain't got a price down where you were selling it at 50 cents a bottle. Now you got to bring it down to 20 cents a bottle because you got too much, and you got to make up for all of the money that you're losing because you got 50 boxes in the back, more than what you should have had. Where you were selling the large tubes for $1.25, now you got 30 boxes in the back, and you're not moving merchandise. So now you got to sell this stuff cheaper than what it is because you're not making any money. You can't do that. That's knowing what you're selling. That's knowing how you sell it. And that's with any business. That's living insane. And that's having a life where now insanity has overtaken because now you gotten scared. You don't know how you're going to feed your family. You got to make sure that you keep your integrity up. Mm-hmm. You got to make sure that your mannerism, your behavior, your character, and all of these things stay intact as much as you can. So those are the things that I want you to look at. That's why we try to do these things at the table, so that we can make you think, help you rethink, help you reevaluate. Because these are things that I learn all the time. And for those that may not, and those that think they know me, and those that think they understand me, this is how I think. And that's why I love listening at my friend T.I. He said, you think you know me, but you don't know me. You don't know my mind. So let me help you understand my mind. So some of you now have entered in my mind just a portion of it. And now you know how I think. You can finish this off so we're ready to go up there.
So I pray that this conversation piece has helped you, will help you. You're more than welcome to go back and revisit it on our pages if you feel that you've missed something, didn't hear something, wanted to catch something, maybe you felt that maybe you didn't understand everything that was said. Please hit the replay, because we come to this table just to have a conversation with you, to meet you right where you're at. As I've said before, Apostle and I both can preach. We can pray. But until we have the tough conversations and speaking on the things that are truly bothering each other as people, one of the biggest things I look at, and if you notice, my conversation is never directed to one area or to one particular person. Our conversation is built around things that we all face, some things that I've personally faced, some things that I'm hearing other people face, some things that other people have shared with me in the past that they face. Because one thing I do know, whenever you feel like you're the only person that's going through, you're not the only person that's going through. When you feel that your situation is the only situation that is the worst situation in the world, if you listen to others talk, you'll find out your situation is nowhere near what you think it is. It's overwhelming for you. And at this time of the year, I do realize that a lot of emotions are going on. We look at the news, no matter where you look at, you can look on social media, you can look at the news, you can look at whatever platform you want to. Everywhere you see, there's some type of bad news. I was listening as I was getting ready to come to the table, and I was listening. I can't even remember what it was I was listening to, but I know it was talking about on the news about it looks as though that the government is getting ready to face a shutdown, and we know that these things have been going on, seem like every 45 days. I'm not even going to lie to you. It seems like every other month the word is going out that there's a possible government shutdown. So whenever we keep hearing this, and we know for a fact that in the past we have seen it for the last 10, 16 years, that the government keeps shutting down, and it's affecting people pay. It's affecting people's livelihood. It's affecting how people going to pay their bills. And right here, before we get ready to go and have Thanksgiving on next week, which I didn't realize Thanksgiving next week, right whenever we get ready to face Thanksgiving on next week, it'll look as though that this Saturday, that time is going to run out and the clock is going to expire. So whenever we think about other people taking care of what's supposed to be our business and how insane they are, their misjudgment drives us insane because they're playing with your, my, our livelihood.
Yes.
So whenever we look at this and we really think about it, or you look at the fact that the banks, people is really not having their money deposited into their accounts, they're not able to pay bills. Whenever you think about that and you think about the suicide numbers are going up, whenever you look at all of these things going on,
yes.
But one of the biggest things that I keep in mind, that all of these things gonna pass away. It's my hope in God and knowing that He's going to take me through.
Yes.
It's what's going to get me through. Everything's going down but the word of God. Remember they used to say that everything's going down but the word of God.
That's right. When heaven and earth pass away, His word will stand alone. So
whenever we look at that and we think about that, everybody know that my favorite scripture is that the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. So whenever I think about that, it doesn't matter what's going on because I know where my help comes from. And sometimes even my faith gets shaken. And if my faith gets shaky, I understand that yours can too. That's why we have these conversations. It's so that we can build each other, encourage each other, because we know it's a little more than just praying. We got to know how to live these things out. Apostle, is there anything else you need to add before we close?
No, that'll be it. Join us tomorrow night for our Fire Fuel Bible study. We do appreciate all of you tonight, all of my family, all of my friends. I saw a lot of my family tonight, a lot of my friends, a lot of my family that I also grew up with was on tonight. We do appreciate. Hey, Bishop Charles Webb, God bless you tonight. We thank you tonight for joining us at Seat at the Table. Bishop, when you get a chance, do go back if you don't mind and listen at this Seat at the Table tonight. The topic was on why are you living insane or living in insanity? And it touches on various situations and issues that we all deal with every day that we've been dealing with for quite some time. And it really challenges our mind to look at where we presently are, what we're presently doing, whether it is natural, emotional, mental, psychological, spiritual, whether it's in our church or we know a church that is dealing with it or dealing with leader or no leaders that are dealing with it. So listen, take a look at it. But most of all, at the end of the day, are we doing things to make a difference? Are we doing things to make a change in our homes? Are we teaching our kids different? Are we showing them different principles concerning how we may have been raised, what we may have done, showing them how to follow a different example than what we may have led, or look differently at mistakes that we may have made, because mistakes are meant to be made, but they also are meant to be at a place to now show us differently. So tonight, hopefully this Seat at the Table, along with all of the other ones that God have allowed us to do and with all the other topics that God has given, especially with the last couple that God have given Evangelist for us to touch on, that they have been an inspiration. That they have not only been inspiration, but they have been something that have blessed your life. Just like they blessed me, her co-workers that have come back and told her when she's gotten to work, we went back and we've looked at all your stuff, your Bible classes and your seats at the table, and girl, you and your husband, blah, 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 yada, yada. And they've done so much, and they made us look at this and made us look at that. So if her co-workers on her job have been able to hear what the voice of the Lord have said, and come back and tell her, I can only imagine what God has been doing with others that may not come back and say anything to us at all. So it's exciting.
One of the things that I keep in mind, that it's not about the accolades, but whenever I think about it, and I think about that Jesus healed 10
And that's why I said
leprosy.
that, because it's about that one, because there's always one of your coworkers that come back and say what God did. And that's why I said that. And you're right. It wasn't about the accolade. It was about that one person each time you're going back.
It tickles me though, because I think about that.
And I agree.
In fact, a lot of times you don't know what you're doing, if it's affecting, or if it's causing change, or if it's helping anyone, because no one ever says anything. Nobody ever comment, and you just sitting there and you just doing what God called you to do. You just keep going on and saying what God told you to say, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, Lord allow somebody to come back and say, you know, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the videos. I appreciate the conversations. I love y'all sit at the table. I look forward for the sit at the table videos to go out.
And that's God let know that you're doing what He called you to do. That it's not just confirmation. It is, encouraging to know that the Spirit of the Lord has given you what it is, and that what He has said is the right thing, and that He has put you in position to be able to move forward in it, to go forward in it. I think that's my alarm that won't stop doing what it's doing. That ain't so much my heart now. Every time my alarm go off, that thing don't want to stop. So at the end of the day, we'll say this, because my alarm on my watch just don't want to stop. We have to put ourselves in position to gravitate to the place of strength, to the place of discipline, to the place of change. We have to now live in that change, move to that change. And these final words here: don't go back to Egypt after He brought you out of your Egypt, because you can't go into your land of promise living in Egypt, in your land of promise. So take that with you, stand there and move there, but don't live in Egypt while you're in your land of promise. We'll see you tomorrow night. Amen.